Domestic violence can be broadly defined as maltreatment that takes place in any family or intimate relationship. The abuse may be emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, or economic, and is most often about one person in the relationship using any means to control the other. Stalking and cyberstalking are also being recognized as forms of domestic violence. Domestic violence affects people from all walks of life, regardless of age, race, religious beliefs, educational background, income, or sexual orientation. Athens-Clarke County has many resources and services to help people who are experiencing domestic violence. This video will describe how to access two important sources of help in Athens-Clarke County: Project SAFE for a variety of services, and the Superior Court for temporary protective orders and stalking orders. Project SAFE is a nonprofit organization working to end domestic violence through crisis intervention, ongoing supportive services, and prevention and education programs. All of our services are free of charge regardless of citizenship or income. Trained staff answer our confidential hotline 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The number is 706-543-3331. If you or someone you care about is in a controlling or abusive relationship, the hotline is a great place to start learning about options and planning next steps. Project SAFE utilizes a TTY machine to make the hotline accessible to deaf or hard of hearing callers, and utilizes a telephone interpreter service to make the hotline accessible to callers who don't speak English. Project SAFE also operates a confidentially located emergency shelter and longer-term transitional housing, and even has a network of foster homes so people can keep their pets safe when they leave an abusive situation. People who don't need or want shelter may choose to access services such as individual counseling, support groups, advocacy and safety planning, and job training programs at our outreach offices in the Family Protection Center. The Family Protection Center is a facility that houses local government and nonprofit domestic violence and sexual assault service providers in one building. This building includes a forensic medical examination room, an advocacy services wing, interview and counseling rooms, a victim witness services wing, administrative space, and other public areas. Domestic violence and sexual assault detectives are also located in the Family Protection Center. Some people who have experienced domestic violence may qualify for a protection order. Protection orders are civil orders issued by the Superior Court that place restrictions on an individual who has committed an act of violence or made threats of violence against another individual. The purpose of a protection order is to protect a person from future harm or harassment. There are two types of protection orders. One is a family violence temporary protective order, also known as a TPO. The other is a stalking order. Protection orders are not connected to criminal charges. The person whom the order is against will not be arrested because of this civil order. However, the person may be arrested or face criminal charges later if he or she violates the order after it's in place. There are several requirements that must be met in order to qualify for a TPO. First, the victim of domestic violence and the perpetrator must have a recognized relationship. That is, the victim and perpetrator must be married or formerly married, parents of the same child, parent and child, or currently or formerly living in the same household. This means that people who have only dated don't qualify for a TPO, but they may qualify for a stalking order, and they can get other kinds of help through Project SAFE. People in same-sex relationships can qualify for a TPO if they live or used to live together. The second requirement for a TPO is that the victim must have suffered an act of domestic violence as defined by law. These acts include any kind of sexual assault, physical violence, threats of violence, damaged property, stalking, or trespassing. It is not required that the act was reported to police or that the abuser was ever arrested. The third requirement is that the victim must be afraid that the domestic violence will occur again without the TPO. Protection orders are not designed to punish past behavior, but rather to prevent violence from happening again. The fourth requirement is that the TPO must be filed in the proper location, usually the Superior Court in the county where the perpetrator resides. Finally, the victim needs to be able to tell the court where the perpetrator can be found, so he or she can be served with the court documents. Stalking orders have different requirements. The victim and perpetrator don't have to have a relationship. They may not even know one another very well. The victim must have experienced stalking, that is, been followed, placed under surveillance, or repeatedly contacted by one who does so for the purpose of harassing, intimidating, or causing fear in the victim. It is possible to file a petition for a TPO or stalking order without any help. This is called acting pro se. The Clerk of Superior Court, located in the Athens Clarke County Courthouse at 325 Washington Street, can provide the paperwork. However, the clerk's office is unable to prepare the forms or provide legal advice. A much better choice is to get assistance prior to filing. This will not only ensure that the victim qualifies for the protective order and that it is filed properly, but also that steps are taken to maximize safety before, during, and after the protective order process. Project Safe advocates have permission from the court to explain the procedures for filing protective orders and help victims through the process. However, Project Safe advocates are not attorneys and cannot provide legal advice or representation. The Family Violence Clinic is another resource in our community for obtaining protection orders. The Family Violence Clinic is part of the University of Georgia School of Law and utilizes law students under the direction of a managing attorney who can provide legal advice and representation for protection orders. To qualify for assistance from the Family Violence Clinic, the person filing the order must be low income, and the person whom the protection order is against must reside in Clarke or Oconee counties. The Family Violence Clinic can be contacted at 706-369-6272 between the hours of 9 and 5 Monday through Friday. The clinic follows the University of Georgia's calendar in regard to holidays and breaks. Callers to the clinic during these breaks are referred to Project Safe. The process for filing a protection order starts with completing the legal paperwork, called the petition. The victim of domestic violence who is filing the petition is called the petitioner. The abusive person against whom the petition is filed is called the respondent. If the petitioner is under the age of 18, he or she must find a person who is 18 or older to file the petition on his or her behalf. In the petition, the victim describes the abuse that has occurred and asks the court for relief. In both a TPO and a stalking order, the relief includes ordering the respondent not to come near the petitioner and not to have any contact with the petitioner. In a TPO, the relief can also include ordering the respondent to leave the house, granting temporary custody and support for the children, granting use of a vehicle or other personal property, and even turning over firearms to law enforcement. The petition needs to be notarized and filed with the clerk's office. There are no fees for filing a protection order. After the paperwork is filed, the clerk will take the petitioner to see the judge. The judge reviews the petition and decides whether or not to grant the order. If the judge grants the order, the petitioner will be given a court date within the next 30 days to return to see the judge. After the judge signs the temporary order, the clerk will escort the person filing to the sheriff's office in order for the petitioner to provide information that will allow the sheriff's office to serve the respondent with the paperwork. The respondent must be served, and the protection order does not legally protect a petitioner unless and until the respondent is notified. At the second or 30-day hearing, the judge will decide to either dismiss the order or extend the order for up to 12 months. The petitioner must be present at this hearing. The respondent may be present, but does not have to be there. At this hearing, both the petitioner and the respondent have the opportunity to present evidence and may bring witnesses to testify before the court. If the judge decides to extend the order, it will last for up to 12 months. The petitioner should continue to follow a safety plan after this protection order is in place, and should continue working with Project Safe to meet other needs. If the respondent violates the order by calling, texting, emailing, coming to the petitioner's home or place of employment, or sending a message through a third party, the petitioner should contact police by dialing 911. The order can also be violated if the respondent fails to abide by visitation arrangements or attempts to sell or dispose of shared property. The respondent may be held in contempt of court for violating the order or may face criminal charges. In conclusion, domestic violence affects many people, and there is help available in Athens-Clarke County. Project SAFE offers many services for people who've experienced any form of abuse in the home and can connect victims and survivors to other sources of help as well. Furthermore, in addition to the criminal justice system, which enforces laws prohibiting domestic violence and punishes abusers, the procedures described in this video regarding civil protection orders are designed for citizens to invoke for their own protection. Thank you for viewing this informational video. We hope that you have the information you need to understand domestic violence, protection orders, and the many services available for your protection in Athens-Clarke County.